I'm Samantha Simmonds with a summary of the BBC World News. At least 14 people have now died in a massive storm to the north of the Philippines. Typhoon Mangkhut has seen violent winds of over 150 kilometres per hour, torrential rains and warnings of 6-metre storm surges. More than 4 million people live in its path. Thousands have already been evacuated. Howard Johnson has sent in this report from the affected area.
Mangkhut has been called by meteorologists the strongest typhoon in the world so far this year. And now the reality of the utter devastation it has caused is becoming obvious. Extreme flash flooding, the fragility of human existence laid bare. The road to Cagayan province was littered with destruction. Electricity posts ripped from the ground, street lamps bent in two, and Mr. Mina's house torn to shreds. He showed me where the roof had been pulled back like a tin of sardines. Fighting back the tears, he told me how he'd spent the night in an evacuation centre, worrying about the fate of his home. When we arrived in Cagayan province, we saw a line of people queuing for fuel to power their generators. How did you feel?
Scared. We were so scared.
All windows broken. Whole night, not sleep.
The scene here repeated across this vast region. Debris scattered across the ground, electricity cables dangling dangerously, people wading their belongings through floodwaters. 2 rescue workers were killed in one of many landslides, and a third person drowned in 6-metre-high storm surges. A team of search and rescue workers. Clearly, it had been a long night.
Our evacuees total to about 43,000, scattered in more than 500 evacuation centers. We have not really released them yet because of the kind of wind that we have until now.
The typhoon is now on its way to southern China and Vietnam. It's expected to pass near Hong Kong tomorrow. The magnitude of the devastation left behind here in the Philippines still isn't known, and more heavy rain is on its way. Howard Johnson, BBC News, to Gigarao.
Another devastating weather system, Storm Florence, on the east coast of America, which is causing catastrophic flooding in North and South Carolina. Officials say at least 5 people have been killed and nearly 1 million households are without electricity. The governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, updated reporters about the storm and the dangers of heavy rainfall.
We face walls of water at our coast, along our rivers, across farmland, in our cities, and in our towns. More people now face imminent threat than when the storm was just offshore. I cannot overstate it. Flood waters are rising, and if you aren't watching for them, you are risking your life.
Pope Francis has given a warning in the heartland of the mafia that it's not possible both to believe in God and be a gangster. Speaking in the Sicilian capital Palermo to a crowd of 100,000, the Pope said mafioso were not living a Christian life, as the way they lived it was blasphemous to a loving God. A Rwandan opposition leader has been released from prison. Victoire Ingabire was serving a 15-year jail term after being found guilty of threatening state security and belittling the 1994 genocide. She's among more than 2,000 prisoners who've been freed from jail after receiving a presidential pardon. A former British soldier has been sentenced to 7 years in prison in Turkey, according to his family. 25-year-old Joe Robinson was arrested there last year and charged with terrorism offences. He has been accused of being a member of the Kurdish YPG, whom the Turkish authorities regard as terrorists. His family maintains he was in Syria helping civilians. The US space agency NASA has successfully launched a satellite designed to measure how much the world's ice sheets are being eroded by global warming. The billion-dollar project will put a satellite almost directly over the North and South Poles, and from there it will use a laser to take measurements. That is it from me for now. You can, of course, get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at Samantha TV News. More from me a little later.